All right, it is showtime. Make sure the camera is all good. I think we're good. My lighting over there is screwed up, but I think we look okay. Anyway, welcome to another episode of Darian Talks UTSA. It is your host, Darian, by the way. Welcome to another episode. Just to get a couple things out of the way, had to do this one a little early because I have some obligations later this evening. So I didn't want to miss a week. So moved it up 30 minutes. I'll probably miss some of you guys. I'm sure Angela will be mad at me for bumping it up for 30 minutes. But we do what we can. But yeah, I wanted to talk through UTSA versus Texas State, the rivalry obviously on the field, but I have some thoughts about why it's so hostile on Twitter. I feel like it's always hostility between UTSA and Texas State, but I think it is a little bit more intense this season for a particular reason. But before we get into all of that, smash a like on the video so everybody can get more involved, and this will pop on more folks who support UTSA feeds and things like that. Also, subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet. Them subscribers are coming up. We are very, very close to 1,100. I just think about the days we were at 200, and it was earlier this summer, and for us to be at 1,100 is really, really awesome. So I appreciate you guys for being road dogs with me as we go through this. Also, feel free to join as a member as well. That's always an option. And I am looking to get my first super chat. I haven't really publicized that much, but I think you guys probably don't know you can. I'm looking to get my first super chat this episode, if possible. If you leave a super chat, the benefit of leaving one of those is we'll make whatever your comment or thought is pretty much a segment on the show, and we'll go into deep detail into discussing that, right? So get your super chats in, hoping to get the first one this time, but if not, we'll try next week. But anyway, let's jump into just the overall discussion about UTSA. And also, right before I get into that, I got an interesting, we've been talking a lot about the marketing aspects of what's been going on with UTSA, and the head of marketing, the head of the deputy AD for external affairs at UTSA, Brad Smith, just got back to me on Twitter. So I'm going to talk about that as well. That's a pretty big topic that I definitely want to go into, because that is the doing of you guys. Everything that we talk about as a community, and we've been talking about the marketing. We had a whole episode about the marketing over the last couple of weeks. Has been a main topic, and the fact that he literally just said that he's listening and we have their attention is a huge thing. So we'll talk about that. But going back to the UTSA versus Texas State deal, listen, here's why I think it is such a big deal right now, and why I think it is a really big topic of discussion right now. Mostly, I think there's two things that are at play right now. I think, and I wrote a little bit some notes on this. I think the beef is the way it is this year, or leading into this season. It's because UTSA and UTSA supporters, myself included. I mean, I have UTSA on my shirt right now. UTSA supporters and fans recognize that Texas State is a legitimate threat this year. And that undefeated record and those bragging rights we have over Texas State. I mean, obviously, Texas State would have some, ground to make up in terms of evening out the record, or possibly, being on the top end of the record. But I think for the first time, there's a sense of nervousness throughout UTSA on that particular game. Number one, because there's so much uncertainty around what UTSA is going to look like, the quarterback situation, us losing a lot of folks, us introducing a lot of new players into the fold. That's a big thing. And then another thing too is I think Texas State is just good. They had a really good season last year. They have a rock star coach. If we're being objective, they have some good returning players coming back. They have the former Sun Belt Conference Player of the Year leading their team at quarterback. They have some momentum behind the coach. They're starting to get NIL money rolling in and things like that. They are doing some things that I think is making UTSA a little bit uneasy. And I feel like, that's has some people shaking in their boots. And I'll say this as well. Just, and you know me, I'm going to try to be as objective as possible. I am probably never going to be objective in my pick, but I'll be objective on just what we are up against whenever we look at UTSA, or I'm sorry, Texas State. Texas State, I can just sense it from their fan base. I can sense it from their supporters. I sense it from what I see on Twitter and just from people I talk to who support Texas State. They are confident. They are very confident in this coach. And for the first time, when they look at a UTSA game, and I can't say for the first, I can't speak for them, but what I feel is I feel like they feel that they are the favorites going into the game this season. I feel like they feel more certain in what they have. They feel more confident in what they're going to be able to bring. They have one of the best young coaches in the game right now. And as I said before, there's momentum around their program, and it's momentum that they hadn't had in years. I can't remember a time where Texas State football has had momentum like this ever, right? So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. I'm gonna get into some of you guys'. I have Bobcats. I have Bobcats in the chat for the first time. I think this is insane, but it's all good. Welcome. Like, it's all love. I'm definitely gonna talk crap to y'all, but I'm gonna be objective as well. I think. Listen, Texas State has a lot of good going for them. I still think UTSA. We've been here for a while, and I expect UTSA to do well. But make no mistake about it. Texas State is going to be a formidable opponent this year, 100%. Let's start getting into some of the chats here. Mike says, let's be honest, this is State's best chance to beat UTSA ever. If they can get it done at home, the impact of that L for them might push the program back a few years. Or if they can't, he said, if they can't get it done at home, the impact of that L might push them back a few years. UTSA will make it 6-0 all time. Listen, yes. So that aligns exactly what I was saying before. This is their best chance, and I do think they should feel confident based on what they are getting behind. I believe in what UTSA has. This not necessarily has anything to do with my personal thought on it, but if you look at their situation objectively and what they are walking into this season, I can see why they're confident, 100%. And in terms of what that L could do for them, I don't know if it'll push their program back a few years, but what I will say is I don't know if it'll push their program back, but if they do get that victory, I think it will push them forward. I think there is no doubt about what that victory would do for that program, and what subsequent meetings between UTSA and Texas State would actually mean from that time forward, right? So, that I'm telling you, man, that game is going to be insane. Mike says UTSA Twitter is legendary. It's hard to be humble when you're 5-0 against them. They hate us because they ain't us. Yeah, I mean, listen. I think I will say this just since we got some Texas State folks on the live today, guys. Can we do something different with some of the comebacks you have? Like the whole you can't spell nutsack without UTSA. You gotta get that one a rest, bro. Y'all been doing that since I was in school. You gotta get that one a rest. Like, please do. But yeah, I mean, listen, I love the rivalry. I love the banter back and forth. I don't engage in much of it myself. It's really not my thing. I don't like the Twitter spar or anything like that. But I love watching it. I tell you that. I'm always front row seat with the popcorn. Every night it pops off, and it's been popping off a lot. It's starting to pop off in in the replies of my tweets. That's what made me think about it. It's funny. I typically have, so like whenever I come to my computer and I hook up my monitor and I go to Twitter on my monitor, I have it set up to where I can see certain searches just automatically, and UTSA football is one of them. When I went to UTSA football earlier today, and all I seen was Texas State banter, just back and forth. Like even other folks, Texas State folks, mentioning UTSA football in some negative way, right? And all of it is leading into week 2 whenever we play them. I cannot wait for that game because just imagine how insane it's going to be. Tariq says, what's going on, Tariq? He says, I thought it was toxic last year when we beat Texas. I thought it was toxic when we beat Texas State last year. Guess I'm going to have to up the ante in September. I'm going to tell you something right now. I thought it was toxic last year too, but based on what I've seen this summer, the offseason, and like what we're running up against, I think this year is more crazy. Like it just seems constant. There's like a sustainability of just banter back and forth with Texas State more than years past. And I'm telling you, it's because we as UTSA fans are a little nervous about that game, and they are chomping at the bit for that game because they feel very, very confident that they're going to be able to get the job done. It is very, very interesting. Marcus says, Darian, as a former player, how much does social media play into the mindset of pregame mentality? Our boy is looking at Twitter before games. Please tell me what happens. Thanks, bro. They are absolutely looking at Twitter before games, and it does sometimes play into the psyche of some players, 1,000%. Not like in a sense of will it make someone nervous or will it make someone just shell up, but I do think it'll make folks press a little bit. It'll make folks want to prove something a little bit more. Sometimes it works very well, but I have seen players. I mean, listen, you'll never know because nobody ever come out and says like, "Hey, I was looking at something on Twitter and it impacted my game." But like sometimes you see signs, you see things, you see people, worry and kind of talk about what was going, what such and such said and things like that, or what someone said in the paper. I'll never forget. Who was we playing? We played. This was like I want to say the first or second year, but there was a team that we played. I'm drawing a blank on the teams in particular. I know one of them that happened my freshman year. When we played, like I think it was like Northeastern Oklahoma State or something like that. And I had some comments. I had some comments in the paper or in the interview, and I remember talking to the receiver after the game that I was going up against, and he mentioned those comments to me. He talked to me about some of that. And guys, just corner and receivers is always a thing, especially if you're playing against a top receiver or something like that. They're going to ask them about what's the secondary looking like and those type of things. I've had conversations with players over the years after games or things like that where they've referenced something that they said in the paper or we said in the paper or something like that. So they do impact folks. They impact folks differently, sometimes positively and sometimes negatively, but it definitely does happen, and guys are definitely on their phone seeing what's up before the game. Everything Texas State. So we have a Bobcat on. He says one could argue that 4 to 5 games already played were close. There were. Like, yes, that is not a poor argument at all. Not at all. With the exception of the second game, absolutely. My man Bobcat Key Bump says you gassing us up for real. Am I? I do think you guys have. I don't know if that's a sarcastic thing or not, but I do think Texas State has quite a bit of momentum coming into this season. I sincerely think that. Now, do I think that means they're going to have a better season than UTSA? Probably not. At least I hope not. But is there a cause for Texas State to have the confidence that they're having and that they're displaying all over social media and all over Twitter? Absolutely. Mike says, not so fast, my friend. Our dudes are better than Texas State. UTSA by double digits. UTSA's defense will be too much for them. I do think I still and I don't know if you're talking to me or you're replying to somebody in the chat here, but I think that UTSA has overall will overall get the job done. I think we have a lot of promise on defense. We have some experienced guys on the offensive line that's coming back. We have an awesome set of running backs that's going to be really strong. We have what I think a good receiving core. If JT Clark is playing, that is a problem for folks. Devin McEwen has already proved that he's going to be a big time contributor, and we got a lot of guys who are going to be able to come in, from bigger schools, from bigger programs that have already shown some of their talent. They're going to be able to come in and be formidable. So as long as we are able to distribute the ball from the quarterback position the way that I feel like we should be able to, because I believe that Coach Traylor is going to ensure that the due diligence is done in preparation, and that the quarterback that gets, which it'll be Owen McCown, that he's ready and he's playing at a level that we can go out and win in. And I think that's a huge thing. Everything Texas State says, the last Texas State home game versus UTSA was the COVID year, and that even playing out on the field when Texas State lost because of an extra point miss. You guys lost, though. You guys lost. Like, let's not talk. Like, here's the thing. I understand Texas State folks are coming in and defending some of the games that we've played before, but those games are already done. You lost those. UTSA, we are 5-0, and that's what it is. What is more intriguing, though, is this game coming up. That is what's more intriguing and what's interesting, because that one's going to be razor. I mean, that's, like I said, that one is one that I'm objectively a little nervous about. I still believe in my runners, but I am a little nervous about those, about that particular game. I will say we're probably at the halfway mark. I do have a hard stop at about 5 after 6. So get in the super chat. I'm trying to get that first one. So get in the super chat if you want something, if you have a real desire for something to get discussed. I'll make sure that skips the line, and we'll have a discussion about whatever your super chat is. Anyway, all right. Getting back into it, Max Swartz says also the new playoff implications are huge this year. Both us, Texas State, have a very good chance to make. That's one of the things that I think makes this so much more of an intriguing matchup as well, is the whole playoffs thing. I am still trying to wrap my head around all of the new playoff system and how the G5 and stuff like that is going to play into some of this. And what I keep thinking about is, I think about, like, yes, do I expect Texas State to have a good year this season? Like, independent of the game that, whenever we play them week 2, right? Do I expect them to have a good year? Yes. I do think they'll have a good season in their conference. I think they'll do pretty well, right? But whenever you start to think about, okay, what does a win really mean for UTSA or Texas State, whoever wins that game, right? It is going to have major implications on, what the postseason is shaped like for both of these teams. Because you think about, let's say for, like, hypothetical, if these teams run the table in conference, I'm just putting a hypothetical out there. Like, now folks, whenever the committees and stuff start to look at this, they're going to look back at week 2, who did what to who, right? Who came out the victorious that game? How much was the points differential, right? Who won by how much? Was it a close game, or did UTSA blow them out, or did Texas State? I don't even want to say those words, but you get what I'm saying, right? So yeah, I think it's just going to be a lot. Going to be the biggest game of the series today, absolutely, and I think it's because Texas State has raised their level. I give credit where credit is due. I don't think they'll win, but what I will say is they've raised their level, and now I'm nervous about the game, to be completely honest. I'm really, really excited about it, but I am objectively a little nervous about that particular game. But it's a good thing, though, right? I don't like to just beat up on everybody all the time. What's the fun in that? Let's see, Extreme. I think this is a new person here, so welcome to the show. Whoever wins will have a quality win on their resume for an argument for the D. That's exactly what we were talking about. Exactly what we were talking about before. Welcome to the show, man. If you like it, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you could. Shout out to JC, Joshua. Shout out to, listen, we got special leaf tea in the house. Shout out to Joshua. My wife has been drinking it for the most part all couple days. So she's almost went through your box. I've gotten one myself, but she's been going to town on those. So shout out to him, man. If you want any tea or anything like that, shout out to Special Leaf Tea and Joshua Cook. They do really great things, and they have a really nice product. It's subscription based and things like that. But yeah, shout out to them. Roadrunner Hype says Texas State team did add better players, but their record from last year can be deceiving. A lot of wins with them came from bad teams. Think fans should take note. I agree with that sentiment, but what I will say is it doesn't matter. It doesn't. We beat bad teams also. It doesn't matter because football, like football, is just all about momentum at the end of the day. Like that's just the fact of the matter. It's just the fact of the situation. It's all about momentum. It's all about how people are feeling mentally. It's all about who can go out and execute, who's playing for their coach, and all of those things, right? Like that to me is what it's all about. And when you look at a team like Texas State, they are confident. That is scary. Confidence can take. I'm telling you, y'all, confidence can change your life. Confidence can have you overcome some things that you never be able to overcome or even think you can overcome if in a regular state of mind. Confidence is a crazy, crazy thing, man. And they have confidence. That's what's dangerous about Texas State. More than any of the X's and O's, more than the players that they have, more than the coach they have. What they have is confidence. And we're in a situation at UTSA where we have natural confidence based on what we've been able to do under Coach Traylor and what we've been able to produce over the last last 3 seasons, specifically 2 conference championships and our first bowl victory last year, 3 highly successful seasons. We're confident based off of that. But anytime a little bit of doubt and uncertainty comes in, because there's going to be some change, that will leave people to be vulnerable. Now, I think that we can block out that noise game 1 against Kennesaw State if we blow them out the water and Owen McCown looks great and the defense is playing well and those sort of things. That to me is important, but them beating bad teams to me does nothing. It doesn't scare me less because they beat bad teams. To me, it's like all a team needs to do is get some confidence. They beat bad teams, but to be fair, we played them close, right? We played them close last year. I mean, or they played us close last year. So, yeah, should be a good game, but still think UTSA wins. That's exactly where I'm at. I think UTSA will win, but it's going to be a more intriguing game than it is before. I normally, and y'all have been with me for years, just talking about this, not necessarily on YouTube, but I've been doing a lot. My show was on, all the audio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify's, and all this for a while. And y'all know how I've been on these Texas State games. I have been very, very mean to you Texas State folks, to be fair, or just to be transparent about that, not giving you guys a chance just because when I look at you guys play football, I don't see anything meaningful. Well, last season I did see something meaningful. That's why I'm like, oh, this is actually going to be a really, really intriguing game, and I'm excited to see it. Alan Judy says they were afraid of Frank Harris as a player. Shout out to Alan Judy. I think you might be new. Shout out to you. Hey, subscribe to the channel if you are enjoying it. Alan Judy says they were afraid of Frank Harris as a player. Now they're trying to clown him. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny, but Frank got on their heads over the weekend. That was pretty cool on Twitter. That was pretty cool. Bobcat, Josh, is that y'all's slogan or something? I'm not repeating that. Kermit says, do you think Kennesaw State is a good enough first game to figure a good amount of things out for the team before we beat Texas State? Or do you think Kennesaw State would be a little too easy in a sense? Listen, I don't mind us. In fact, I want a worse team than Kennesaw State. When we're ushering in a new quarterback, I want that person to get confidence. That's what I worry about. Obviously, we got Texas State's second game, not great, but it is what it is. I just want I want our quarterback, since he's going to be, a new quarterback, to be rolling into a game like that that's going to be hostile and going to have a lot on the line. He's going to be under a lot of pressure. I want him to go in there with full confidence. Coming off a game where he threw for 300 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns or something like that. I want UTSA to go in and have a game that we can dominate, because guess what? We're going to throw things at the wall in that game. We're going to see what works. The offensive coordinator is going to see what plays he feels comfortable in on certain down and distance, right? He's going to understand who he wants to get the ball to, in short yardage and those sorts of things, right? Like, so anyway, just for situational sense, because Texas State is going to be our first big test and we're getting that big test early in the season, I'm okay if we were playing a D1 AA, D2 team or something like that on the first game. So I think Kennesaw State's just fine. All right, everything Texas State is back. He says, I'm not trying to defend the loss. I'm not trying to defend the losses of the past. My point was Texas State has been bad for the majority of the previous matchups, and they were still relatively close. It's a rivalry game, though. It's going to be like that. They're going to, any team's going to come out and give their all. I just think, in those other games, I just don't think Texas State had anything for us, regardless if they were close or not. And this one, from a talent standpoint and from what Texas State is bringing, they probably have folks who, they have a system and a program that is more prepared to play at UTSA at this particular point in time. Don't think it'll be enough, but we'll have to see. Shout out to Joshua again. Max says, yo, Darian, what are your opinions on the Memphis game? Haven't heard much talk about that, but especially in the dome and how our defense can be, I think we can have a solid shot at beating them. Yeah, no. Listen, the Memphis game is important, and it's going to be huge, and that's going to be a game that I am going to definitely be at. I'm coming to San Antonio for that one for sure. I'll say this about that game. It is going to be a huge game. It's going to be a big game. It's going to be a test. But because the game is later in the schedule, it's hard to really contextualize what that game will look like and just think about that game, because so much is going to have happened already. We'll already have seen UTSA play for a while before we start putting pieces together on what that game is going to look like for Memphis. That's a game that is definitely circled. There's a couple of games that I am going to for sure at the Dome. I'm going to go to the home opener just because I want to see the guys in their first game live in person, so I can get a feel for what we're going to look like just throughout the rest of the season. But the other game that I have that's a checked off guarantee that I will be at is Memphis, 100%. Bobcat Josh says Traylor went 75 his first season, 12-2 in the second. Kenny was 75 in the regular season for his first year. Absolutely. Like I said, I think he has some momentum. He's put some momentum out. And I like his philosophy of how he does things. I like I said, I try to be objective when I'm even looking at a Texas State or anything like that. And I think that he's a good dude. Y'all won't have him for long, though. I hope y'all know that. He won't be there for too much longer. But enjoy him while you got him. Are you more nervous for the Texas State game or the Memphis game? Personally, I think Memphis game will be a lot tougher. Yes, I think the Memphis game will be a lot tougher, but I am worried. I'm more nervous about the Texas State game for the simple fact that it's early in our season, and I think it can shape the way the season plays out, right? That being game 2 and being such a high intensity, high leverage game that's going to have everybody watching. That's going to have everybody in the area involved and intrigued about the game. I think that game is going to impact fan attendance and, how many people are going to go to games and travel to games for UTSA and things like that. I think it's going to have an impact on the psyche of the players. We got UT after that. That's not going to be a game that we're going to have a great chance of winning. So you don't want to start out, if you can avoid starting out 1-2 or something like that. Like you want to certainly do that. And there's just a number of factors of reasons why that game to me is so, so important. It's not that we're not going to play more difficult teams down the line. We will absolutely do so. But that is going to be the first test of a game that's a game we can win. That's a game, in my opinion, we should win. but it's also a dangerous game. It's also going to be the first test for the new quarterback and the new era of UTSA. Not to just poo-poo on. I'm not trying to poo-poo on Kennesaw State because we obviously got to go in and put in the shift against those guys. But when you think about how much that game is going to mean for UTSA on every single level when it comes to, like I said, fan attendance, morale, what we're going to look like throughout the rest of the season, what kind of confidence is. I mean, we come out of that game on top. Think about whoever that quarterback is and the momentum they're going to be riding going into conference play. And think about just that momentum and the feeling around the city and all of that stuff coming from a Texas State victory, right? So I think the Texas State game is more important, and I'm nervous about it because of everything that could come about it. I think the Memphis game obviously is going to be, well, I can't say obviously, but we expect it to be tougher. I expect it to be tougher, but we'll have to see. But that Texas State game, a lot's riding on that, in my opinion. Extreme says, first time commenter, but been watching for a while. Are you more worried about us defending the pass or the run against Texas State? Probably a little bit of both, honestly. I just think they do things well. I think they'll be forced to pass the ball against us because I do think our front seven is probably going to dominate theirs just because we have a lot of guys that's experienced, and we just have really good depth at the defensive line position, and I just think we're going to give them problems. And I think we can do some good things against the run, and especially the way that they like to run the football. So I think we'll be fine there. I think the questions that I'm going to have is in the secondary. I've talked about that before. We got a lot of new guys coming into the secondary. They do come with a lot of hype, and they are expected to be really, really good. But we got to see that, right? This, in a lot of ways, is going to be a big test for them. If the secondary plays well, we win. Period. If our secondary plays well, we win. That's the name of the game. So to answer your question, the pass. Chosen one says, I ain't worried about Texas State. I ain't mad at you, bro. Mike says, Texas State followed by Texas at Austin, both on the road. This might be the toughest back-to-back game we've had. Exactly. That's why I think the Texas State game is so important for us to win. It is uber important for us to win that game because we got Austin. We got to go to Austin right after that following week, which is going to be a tough matchup for us. So, yeah, man, it's a lot riding on that game. Siki says, sold out Bobcat Stadium, 3 p.m. game, 100-plus degrees in the shade. It's going to be a scorcher. Absolutely. And it kind of goes back into some of the discussion that we've been talking about with the Alamo Dome versus on-campus stadiums and what the experience is going to be like for the players, the fans, everybody involved. That heat is going to be crazy. So y'all better get your sunscreen ready. Scott J says, new fan here. What do you think about our DE edge room this year? I think they're going to be great. We got a lot of good guys coming in. We got the guy at SMU coming in. We got a lot of guys on that defensive line. Jamori Robinson that we've talked about on here ad nauseum. There's a lot of guys in our defensive line room that are going to be able to get out to the passer. I am not worried about them at all. We always have a great defensive line. We always have great pass rushers. There's not been a year that we haven't had someone who's been elite at doing that, top of the conference, and has gotten national recognition. So we're going to be fine at the defensive line position 100%. And appreciate you for being here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, join us as we try to build this community, man. There's a lot of momentum going into the season, and we'd love to have you. All right, let's see. I'm gonna have to throw a little shade at my Bobcat guys here because I have to wrap because I have a hard stop. But I did want to talk briefly about some of the marketing stuff that we talked about before. As I was saying earlier in the show, the deputy, let me make sure I get his title correct, but he's the deputy AD for external affairs for UTSA Athletics, Brad Smith. He reached out, or he made a comment on Twitter. So around on July 4th, we talked, and before that, we talked about UTSA marketing and how we're going to get more butts in seats and, stuff that we need to do. And then what I did was I followed up, I consolidated all of the DMs, the comments, the things that we talked about here on this very channel. I consolidated that to the best that I could, and I gave them 3 pieces of actionable feedback, because I think we can complain and moan about all of the things they need to do better, but I gave them 3 pieces of actionable feedback to hopefully that they listen to and that they try to implement some of these things. But one of the things I talked about was fan engagement. I talked about, we need more interaction with the supporters from UTSA athletics, locally in the community, but also on the social media platforms that we all sit on and interact with each other on a day-to-day basis. And we all want to feel more included in the UTSA journey. And I gave them some examples like interactive tweets to rally and highlight individual supporters on game weeks, for them to host more events, and for fans, host more events for fans who may have not become donors yet. I think they could up that. Obviously, another one was a big discussion around parking and transportation and provide more convenient options on getting to the dome on game days, because it's a hassle. The parking is a hassle. Every time I come to the dome and I don't have a media pass and a parking pass, I'm annoyed that what I have to do to park my car somewhere. So obviously I put something out there about that. Then video content. A lot of folks talked about more video content. For me, I thought I put something out there to them that I think we might want to see how the sauce is made instead of just your regular hype videos that we get throughout the week. So I kind of talked about more behind the scenes content, them documenting, themselves overcoming some of the challenges, some of the war room stuff with recruiting. There's a lot of stuff I think that we can do better. And I was happy that he responded and said, "Hey, I'm listening to you guys." He said we're being heard, that we as a community is being heard. He talked about fan engagement and how it's very important to him, and they're looking to maximize the opportunities of supporting the community. So that's a huge shout out to all of you guys for giving your feedback and being active in this conversation. So I think at this particular point in time, he wanted to use that opportunity to look for some volunteers to help sell UTSA football tickets. So there's going to be a meeting on July 18th at 6 p.m. where they're going to go over more details, but there's a form that I posted up on my Twitter that you guys can go in and sign up for to kind of help spread the message to get folks to buy more season tickets. So I appreciated that from Brad, because he's putting himself in a position of where we can hold them accountable, right? And I think that's what's important. We all want the best for UTSA. We want growth, and we want more people to come to seats, and we want a better experience for everybody. So I think this type of stuff is important, and we got to stick with it and make sure we hold up our end of the bargain as well. All right. But yeah, I got to jump. I know I'm ending a little early here, but I appreciate you guys for being with me. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, join as a member to support the channel. That goes a long way in supporting the channel and supporting me. You can drop a super chat or something like that. That would also help support the channel and support me as well. I will catch you guys on Twitter. If you have any more questions or anything that I did not get to, just hit me up on Twitter. I'll make sure I get to those tonight or sometime in the morning, and we can keep this thing going. But until then, I will see you guys next week. Peace.